Hey, so what is up guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about the iPhone 17 models because we are probably about 1 month away before the phones actually come out publicly. And I figured we'd share some leaks and some rumors about them. As always guys, there are going to be skippable cards and chapters in the description, so you guys can skip around and feel free to. I'm not stopping you right here. Skip around, enjoy the video. First of all, let's just start off with the models of the 17. We're actually supposed to be getting a 17 Air model just because Apple's 17 Plus model wasn't really selling as well as they think that a thinner, slimmer down iPhone would sell. So let's just start off with the display of all of these phones. So the display itself will be, every phone will be getting a ProMotion LTPO display, which will be capable of 1 Hz all the way up to 120 Hz. We aren't totally sure if Apple will keep the always-on technology for the Pro users, but at least we're getting 120 Hz on a regular iPhone model. Finally, the 17 Air will be getting a 6.6-inch display, as well as the 17 will go from 6.1 inches to 6.3 inches, which will match the 16 Pro and the 17 Pro. The 17 Pro Max will be getting a 16.9-inch display. No really new rumors about us getting a new coating for the display, such as like anti-reflective glass, such as other different ways to make it more durable, like what Samsung's been doing. But it's pretty neat to see what Apple is doing for the display department. So now let's just move on to the design, and especially just the chassis. Really, the 17 model itself isn't expected to be getting a design change at all, considering that Apple sort of did that design move when they did the 16. It will still be the same 2-camera pill cutout that we've been seeing for the 16. However, the 17 Pro will be getting a new rectangular sort of camera bar cutout. Now, Apple is expected to be switching over back to aluminum, just possibly because it's cheaper to manufacture, and it will be lighter in some way. It might not be as durable as the titanium, but it will be lighter, and it will be less heavier than the stainless steel. They are planning to do a half aluminum and half glass back because they still want to continue to add wireless charging. The Apple logo will possibly not be centered off like it's been for the past few years. It will actually possibly be more closer to the bottom, really just to account for the new design. The MagSafe magnet should still be the same, and it will actually be running a new standard that we will explain more as we get into the video. However, the 17 Air is expected to have 1 rear camera module, which is kind of sad, but considering how thin the device will be, coming in at around 5.5 millimeters compared to the 5.1 millimeters of, we'll just say, the M4 iPad Pro, or the 6.9 millimeters of Apple's thinnest iPhone ever, which is the iPhone 6. That's pretty impressive. And so people are saying and speculating that this could be around 5.5 millimeters thin to around 6 millimeters thin. The iPhone 17 Air will, again, be replacing the iPhone 17 or Plus, or the 16 Plus. It will replace that Plus model. So love to hear it. For the cameras on the new phones, we're expected to be getting 48 megapixels all the way across the board for the Pro models. So it's going to be a 48 megapixel telephoto, a 48 megapixel main, and a 48 megapixel ultra wide. This will also allow for 8K recording, which again, Apple might limit this just because, shooting 4K ProRes on other iPhones, I think you have to upgrade it to around 256 gigs of storage just to shoot 8K or to shoot 4K ProRes. And so considering those factors, I think if we are going to shoot 8K, we're probably going to have to shoot it through, a 512 gigabyte or a terabyte iPhone, really just because 8K takes up a lot of space and a lot of storage, obviously. The optical zoom will stay the same at 5x. And for the 17, we are expected to just be getting the same camera modules from the 16, possibly with a slight bump in the specs or maybe a slight bump in the software with the enhancements of Apple's image processing. However, y'all are wondering what we are going to expect for the 17 Air. So the 17 Air is expected to be getting we'll just say 1 single camera, and this camera will be a 48 megapixel main sensor. And so that's pretty good. I definitely think it should be, I wish it was 2. You're buying a phone, an $800 phone, you want it to be 2, but I get it. So they're going to do 148 megapixel camera, and all of the phone models should be getting 24 megapixels for a front facing camera, which will make the experience for FaceTiming and different things like that a lot more better, especially if you like using the front facing camera. The other main feature that a lot of people have been talking about is for the Pro models, dual camera recording, where basically it will record the rear camera, but it will also record using the front facing camera, basically allowing you to sort of look at 2 things or record 2 things at once, face shots and what you're looking at. And so that is a pro feature. I hope it actually comes because that sounds like a very fun feature to use. Okay, so for the processors and the RAM, so Apple's expected to launch their A19 chip and the A19 Pro. Both of the chips were expected to be ran off of a 2nm process this year. However, things change and stuff happens, and so we'll probably see another 3nm process chip, just possibly just with a little upgrade, maybe a little bump in the transistors. Again, the 17 Pro will be getting the A19 Pro. The 17 will be getting the A19 chip itself. If we're going to talk about the 17 Air, I gotta say the 17 Air will possibly be getting the A19, but it could also get the A19 Pro just with 1 less GPU core. Because again, the phone is thinner, and so Apple has to account for different thermal techniques to make the phone actually, survive in the everyday use. Personally, I think that an A19 Pro chip would be pretty nice to have in a 17 Air. I just hope that they can do it efficiently, and possibly if they do, then yeah, just bump a GPU core off of it from the regular 17 Pro. Now, if we're talking about the 5G modem, Apple's not expected to be putting a 5G modem in the regular 17 and the 17 Pro, really just because I don't think Apple's necessarily ready for it just yet. However, the 17 Air is expected to be getting its own Apple in-house 5G modem. This will actually allow for full 5G except for millimeter wave 5G. So the 5G that you normally experience, at an airport, super blazing fast 5G, that won't really happen. However, 5G itself is an advantage from LTE and 4G. I could totally see Apple doing this, and if Apple does release their in-house chip in their first 5G modem in this phone, then yeah, the 16E and the iPhone 17 Air will be the first 2 to get it. And actually, I think the 16E, if I'm not mistaken, actually only supports LTE. And so that has the C1 processor in it. So this one could possibly be a different name for the actual 5G chip. But Apple is expected to be putting 5G in the 17 Air. That's what we know. For the Wi-Fi itself, we're getting Wi-Fi 7 across the board, which will allow for faster speeds, faster data speeds, and all that good stuff that you want in a phone. The RAM. So Apple's expected to be doing 8 gigabytes of RAM continuously for the 16 model and the 17. So that will stay the same. However, the 17 Pro will possibly be going from 8 gigabytes to 12 gigabytes of RAM. This will allow for more apps to run in the background. Apple Intelligence might run a little bit faster if it ever comes out. The charging and the battery, Apple is expected to be continuing to do and moving up and upgrading to a 35 watt wired charging and possibly 25 watts for wireless charging. This is because the new Qi 2.2 upgrade allows for it, and we'll also probably see a new MagSafe cable because of this. And this is comparable to the 15 watt charging that we have on the current iPhone 16 models. So this will actually be pretty good upgrade considering that the batteries might be getting a little bit larger. The other thing that Apple was considering, and I hope that they continue to consider this, is that new battery removal tool that you can do with the 9-volt battery, the inductive adhesive. Basically, if you haven't heard of it, it's where you can take a 9-volt battery and use everyday objects at your house to connect the wire to the actual iPhone itself, and you can connect that wire to the 9-volt battery, and the inductive adhesive will basically let up on the battery, making the process less harder and easier to remove the battery, thus as making it more repairable and more carbon neutral for the environment, making a lot of things much better. And so the Apple only put that on the 16 models rather than the 16 Pro models. And so supposedly we could be seeing the battery inductive for 17 Air, 17 Pro, and Pro Max. So this will be, a huge step up, considering that Apple, I think they're trying to get better at being more repairable, but I'm gonna be straight up honest, they aren't really doing it just yet. The right to repair program is still very expensive. For the price, so the price of the phone, especially we'll start out with the 17 Air, is expected to be around $899 because again, it is replacing the 16 Plus or just the Plus models in general. And so for the actual regular models, we could see a $50 price increase, really just because Apple is probably putting a lot more hardware than they normally do in the regular models, and especially the Pro phones. And so we could see a possible jump in price for around $50. Again, it's probably not going to stop people from buying the latest iPhone, but it's definitely a possibility that we could see. And again, Apple is doing the tariffs, the whole tariffs of what's on India and what's on China is definitely affecting the process of how iPhones are built. And so, us trying to wrap our heads around how we're going to get past those tariffs might be a little confusing, and it's also a little confusing to Apple in general. The release date, we're expecting these phones to come out September 9th through the 12th. Those are just the rough estimates of that, those 3 days. Really, Apple releases the new iPhones on the first or second week of September, along with their new operating systems. And so that would definitely be something to look forward to, especially because iOS 26 is right around the corner. I'm actually running beta 5 right now, and normally we do 6 betas, and so we're getting pretty close. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this whole, iPhone 17 Air. Definitely hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. So yeah, peace out.